Welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes with dailystraits.com. Today, we would like to introduce you to a very special guest, Jackie Ashley, the founder of Ashley & Co. Jackie is a New Zealander and entrepreneur who grew up in Hong Kong. Just like Steve Jobs, she created her brand in her garage. Together with her husband, Ben, the duo grew the brand from strength to strength to a catalog of over 70 products, including 8 signature scents. Jackie's range is now stocked in some of the world's finest retail, hospitality, and hotel hotspots in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom. Most importantly, her brand recently partnered with Air New Zealand. Now one can find Ashley & Co products available in its business and premium economic class in-flight packs. So today we're going to talk to Jackie about how she got her product into the skies, something that Daily Straits understand is very hard to do, and much more. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, hi, June. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. So let's dive right into the questions. Tell us how you got onto entrepreneurship.
I have always had an inkling to do a little bit of a side hustle and side business. I was working as a physiotherapist actually when I started Ashley & Co. Before that, I had a little side business on the side of my main job as well, and that had sort of come to an end, and I was looking to do something else. And it wasn't really because I had any job dissatisfaction. I did actually love what I did. It was just that I had chosen a path very early on when I left school. And it was the health science path, when I think really my calling was probably to be more creative in design or something similar. So I always had that inkling to do something else, and that's where sort of Ashley & Co was born, where love of design and scent and everything to do about your home and personal use was married together.
Awesome. So you said your background, because this is like a beauty product, so you didn't have a pharmacy science training. So tell us more a bit about your background and how you worked on the first product, the first thing that you made.
Yeah, sure. My dad was actually a doctor, and we were, when I was at school, you were very much focused into deciding what you want to do when you left school. So physiotherapy was something that I was really, really interested in, yes, I neglected the other side of my calling. I got to about 5 years in, and I'd always had a love of, creating things around the home. We'd recently bought our first home. It was very much about, I was in that sort of nesting phase prior to having children. And I came across a product that was overseas. It was a home perfume. And nobody back at home was doing this particular product. So I brought the sample back home with me, and in my spare time, I began tinkering away, trying to work out how to create this really unique product. At that point in time, when you Googled reed diffusers, it was generally a plug-in air freshener that would puff, fragrance into the air at intermittent times. There was nothing out there about reed diffusers. And so I was actually the first one in New Zealand to bring reed diffusers to the New Zealand market. And that's how it all sort of started. So it was very much a journey. It took about a year to bring the first product to fruition. I always loved dabbling in scents, and had a love of beauty as well. And developing the scents was the first part of it, because each of our scents, we wanted to bring them to life. We wanted our scents to have personality and a purpose in one's home, and that was really, really important. So we started with 3 of our signature scents, and then we had to work out how to put this scent into a formulation that would work. So I did a lot of research, a lot of time studying how to do this. But in the end, I enlisted the help of some pharmacy and formulation experts, and we came up with a formula that we thought would work. And funnily enough, the first formula we came up with was about 85% alcohol and the most flammable concoction that you could make, and we stored it in a little garage and also in our spare bedroom. And had there been an explosion, I think the whole house would have probably gone up. So, you know, it was very much trial and error, but an extremely fun process. And yeah, a year later, well, about 6 months in, I resigned from my job, and I concentrated on Ashley & Co full time. I had a couple of little side retail jobs just to help along the way, and yeah, and that's how we started.
So Red Fusion, was it did you bring the product as a franchisee, or was it?
No, not at all. It was totally from conception. So it was developing the scents, and then working out the formulations. We had to use, because our first run was only 500 of each fragrance, we had to use stock bottles. So there was issues around, you know, finding the appropriate bottles to use, trying to source reed. Where do we get reed from? I found a contact in the States actually where you know, I first saw the product, and I was importing the reed, and then the packaging. But very, very luckily, I've got a very generous husband who gave up a lot of his time to design all of the packaging. So, you know, very, very lucky there.
So okay, no worries. So this was actually a product that you made from scratch, right?
Yes.
And started with 3 bottles, 3 cents. Did you test it? Like, or you just knew since there wasn't any products in New Zealand, did you go around and do a short survey to see if there's a need for such a product?
I did a lot of my own research, and I've got to say that even now, a lot of our products are it's gut instinct, and I do what I love, and that's part of what makes Ashley & Co. So there was definitely a need for an innovative product on the market. At the time, there were a lot of paraffin-based candles, and a few soy candles, and otherwise it was mainly potpourri. So, you know, the reed diffuser was something that people hadn't seen before, and well, not in Australia and New Zealand. And yeah, so it was a new innovative product to actually take to retailers when it was first developed.
So this was 10 years ago, right? 10 years?
Actually coming up 17.
Oh, 17.
So
wow.
we have been going for quite a while. We've got a really loyal customer following in New Zealand, which is great. And, you know, we have branched into other territories, as you mentioned at the beginning, June. But yes, you know, New Zealand has really supported us, and yeah, it's been organic growth in New Zealand, and our customers are still coming back to buy the same fragrance that they purchased like 16 years ago.
Wow, awesome. So correct me if I'm wrong. So you got the idea from Hong Kong?
The item, no, from the States actually.
No, the idea. Did you get it?
Oh, the idea. No, it was from the States. So we'd been over there on holiday, and it was my sister-in-law that had introduced me to a reed diffuser, and there was just nothing like it at home. So no, it was, and I thought that, you know, once you started Googling a reed diffuser, that it would come up with, you know, many, many, many different brands, but it hadn't actually filtered down through to Australia and New Zealand at that time. So yeah, it was a brand new product. Yeah.
So you came up with 500 MOQ of 3 different types of scents. Why didn't you just try one first? And then why did you?
Good question. I suppose I wanted I wanted there to be a range, because scent is so subjective, and one scent doesn't appeal to everybody. So it was really important to identify, 3 different scent profiles, and to give each of those scents a real personality. And that's something about Ashley & Co that we still do to this day, is that our scents are very approachable, but our packaging and the way that we talk about our scents, the way that we name them, the way we explain and talk about the actual notes in the fragrance is all very light-hearted and approachable. So we wanted it to be appealing to a number of people, and not just focus on one scent in particular.
Awesome. So, okay, 6 months in, you left your job and you did this full time. So you came up with
Yes.
500 MOQs. And then what was your initial investment? And was it all your own money?
Yes, it was. And actually, we did it on a sniff of an oily rag, really. We, at that point in time, it was mainly on, Ben was doing all of the design. I was doing the product development. We worked with great formulation experts who would produce samples for us for free. I would go out there and spend, quite a few hours each week developing these samples with them, and then bringing them home to test them. And it was all, in the hope that this would pay off, and I'd be putting through a purchase order with them. So it was. We really didn't invest a lot. We were on one income at that particular time, my husband's income, and I borrowed a few thousand from mum, and away we went. But there wasn't. I think it's different now when you set up a business, because you put so much into like your e-commerce site straight off, and everything to support that. Whereas back then it was more about I think I had a web page that told people a little bit about the business and where to find the product, and that was it. And we very much relied on our bricks and mortar stores and approached various retailers throughout New Zealand, and that was really the start. So probably not the investment that you'd need to start a company these days.
Okay, so you would you remember the figure though?
Oh, it was about $5,000.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
So
that is
I've
awesome.
got to say, I've got to say that it was a really positive experience coming up with these products. As I said before, I didn't have a pharmacy background. It was just something that I loved. It was very intuitive, and the people that I worked with were just so giving of their time as well, and not knowing that I would still be their customer 17 years on. They would make samples, at a drop of a hat, and I would take them home to test them to see if they worked, and then I'd be back there, a couple of days later. So I don't know if it happens anywhere else in the world, but that's how New Zealanders that's how New Zealanders work.
That's very good. So with that 500 products that you had initially 17 years ago, where did you go to sell it and get the word out for your brand?
Well, I'm a terrible salesperson, absolutely terrible. I think the hardest thing is selling your own product and walking into a retailer who, you've cold called, showing them a product that you've just designed and put your heart and soul into, and then, thinking, please, don't reject me. So it was hard. It was very, very hard for me, and totally out of my comfort zone. So first of all, I started with some of the larger retailers in Auckland, and then it was choosing kind of the best retailer in each suburb. So, focusing on the premium sort of gift and homeware stores, calling them up and going in and seeing each and every one of them. I was definitely out of my comfort zone doing that.
But did you go trade shows, markets?
Yes, I didn't do any markets. I was solely focusing on retailers. I did my first trade show about 1 year in, and that was quite grueling. And then I actually found a few really good sales agents throughout New Zealand, commission-based sales agents, and I worked with them for a number of years. And they, of course, were multi-agency agents and would have various brands under their belt. But selling into selling products into similar stores that I wanted to be in as well. So that really helped. So I could focus on, the day to day and the running of the business, and coming up with new products, and then supplying them with samples for them to go out to retailers and speak to new retailers.
Awesome. So how did you scale up, from a startup right to a juggernaut that you are right now? So what was the turning point for your brand?
The turning point was actually about 8 years ago. Ben went to school went to school and had a really good friend, Jeremy, and Jeremy expressed interest in the business, and he is actually a born salesperson, and if he listens to this he'll probably laugh, but he definitely is. He brought the sales expertise to the table, and also had his own business at the time, and so was able to help with the distribution and some of the warehousing. So that really helped. So that moved it out of my family barn at that stage, which we had taken up a lot of room in, and moved it into more of a professional setting. So that was really the first really good push. We'd had 2 children by that stage. They were still just started school, and the day-to-day was Ashley & Co, but it was getting, I needed extra help. So that was really the push that we needed to start to move it to that next level.
So did he come in as a partner?
He came in as a partner, yes, as a 50-50 partner, and yes, took over the sales and distribution side, and then from there, 4 years ago, we moved into our own warehouse. So we store all our finished goods in the warehouse. We still have third-party warehousing off-site for all our parts, and now we've got a team of people working in the offices upstairs, and warehouse staff as well.
Awesome. Alrighty. Can you tell me what is your best-selling product and why?
Yeah, best-selling product. I suppose I could talk about two things actually. So best-selling scent and best-selling product. Best-selling scent is our Tui and Kahili scent, which is a wild ginger and lily scent, and best-selling product is the Tui and Kahili wash-up. And the reason for that, we believe, is that about 7 years ago, we started a little marketing side to our business, where we placed Tui and Kahili hand wash in some of the premium hospitality, restaurants, accommodation around New Zealand, and we've had a lot of organic growth from that as well. And now we have a full-time person servicing all of those accounts. But that was the start, because our products are so sensory. You actually need to try almost before you buy. And so we found a lot of people going into the restaurants and washing their hands and walking out smelling their hands, saying, well, what is this product? Where can I get this from? And so that was a really great way of marketing our product, and driving people through to our retailers. And as a result, Tui and Kahili scent is definitely the most popular, and the wash-up product is one of the most popular products too.
Awesome. Okay, so this one, most beauty brands dream of working with airlines. How did your partnership with Air New Zealand come about?
Oh, it was actually something that we had dreamed about as well, and I had spoken to our contract manufacturers about, and we were approached. And the amazing thing about Air New Zealand is that they take on brands for a few years and help grow their brand awareness, and that's what they do. And they only ever use New Zealand products, and for us, it was a real opportunity because when we were approached, we weren't doing any small amenity sized products. So it was a very, very quick turnaround, developing a new product, but then also putting our existing product into amenity sized tubes. So we actually formulated and brought to life our lip punch product, which is our beeswax buttery lip balm. And that's actually become one of our best-selling products. So we were on the, not Trans-Tasman, but to the US, Asia, and Europe routes. And yeah, it just gave us great brand exposure. And we had people, contacting us and emailing us from all over the world saying, we bought your product, we picked up your product on Air New Zealand, where can we buy this from? And it was all extremely positive. So yeah, unfortunately due to COVID that paused last year, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the next 12 months.
Awesome. So when you started working in the garage, right, you didn't expect the brand to go this far.
No, I always had high hopes. I certainly didn't expect that we would have 70 over 70 products. That's a lot of products to keep track of. But the great thing is that even from even 17 years ago, the scents that we've got in our range, those 3 signature scents that we started out with, are still very much part of our range today. It's just we've put them into new products, and I think that is a real sign that we've got great customers out there who have invested in the brand and are still with the brand 16 years on.
Are all your products manufactured in New Zealand or overseas?
No, all of them are manufactured in New Zealand. We're still working with the same contract manufacturers as we started with 17 years ago. We do get parts offshore. We've moved away from the stock bottles that we could get in New Zealand when we could only order 500 or so units, and we've moved to our bottles are our own design, our own colour. So we try to put our mark on every product that we produce.
Awesome. So did COVID-19 pose any threats to your brand?
Oh, look, it definitely did. In New Zealand, we had a very sharp, very quick lockdown occur, and there was a great deal of uncertainty. We were in level 4 and retailers weren't allowed to trade. There was no online shopping except for essential groceries, and nobody knew what was going to happen. It was really uncertain times. We had staff as well, so it did pose a massive threat. I think what people didn't realise, what would come out of COVID, is that once retailers were allowed to trade online, that and it wasn't just essential business, that their online sales would grow dramatically. So I think we were just lucky to be in that space where people were looking for products that would bring them joy, that were consumable products that you could use in your home. We were very lucky to actually be part of a group of products that were uplifting, because I think people definitely needed it at that point in time.
Did you have a hand sanitizing product by then in your range?
We did, and the funny thing is we didn't have it released. We had one in the pipeline. We released a regular alcohol-based sanitizer. But the one in the pipeline that we had been working on for about a year was a cream-based Hydra sanitizer. So it wasn't alcohol-based. It was actually a sanitizer that moisturized your hands as well. And then, COVID happened and lockdown, and we were right in the middle of having this particular product, the tubes printed and then imminent production. So when we released that, it definitely did look reactionary, but it actually wasn't. We did have this product underway well before we even knew that COVID existed.
Okay, that's lucky then. So
yeah.
What is the secret of staying in business so long? 17 years.
Yeah. I think you've got to have a passion first and foremost. You've got to love what you do. So we still very much love what we do. I love coming to work. I love creating new products. I think that you surround yourself with people that do the things well that you can't do. So admitting where you need help and concentrating on that. And I think that, that has really, that's very, very true. I think some of the hardest times for me was when I was trying to do everything, and actually accepting that I'm not good at everything was a big step, and surrounding yourself with people who are good at what they do.
Okay, that's great. So can you tell us about your company staff counts, offices, from a one-woman show? How did you grow? Like, how many people do you have with you right now?
We have 12 people in the office at the moment. We have our own warehouse and offices above. We still have the third-party warehousing, as I said, for all our parts, because we can't fit everything in our warehouse. But we have grown, a lot. I now concentrate on new product development. Ben is still, creative. He's head designer of all the products, all the packaging. But, we have a great sales team, operations team, accounts, and warehousing staff. So, yeah, we've definitely got a really tight but, wonderful working team.
So how many products do you launch in a year?
Well, last year was a different year. We sort of, everything got condensed, we found last year. Products that were coming out at the beginning of the year got pushed a little bit later because of, places closing down, just shipping changes. So last year we did release 5 new products, and these were an extension of Lip Punch. We did a tinted lip balm called Tint Me. Powerhouse, which is a water-based room spray, Surface Zap, Hand Zap, which were both alcohol-based sanitizers, and then Soothe Zap, which I mentioned before, which was a cream-based hydro sanitizer. So that was a very unique year. We also did a collaboration with a organisation called Cure Kids, and that was a great success. And then for the first year, we did proper Christmas packaging. We celebrated Christmas. And so this year we feel like we've got a little bit of a hard act to follow. We have got several products in the pipeline, but due to supply issues, things are being pushed to later in the year. So we've just got to be patient there. And there's shipping delays, lead times have blown out. But look, by Christmas, we will have all of our MPD that we've got planned for the year out there, plus some, a brand new take on Christmas.
All right. So your husband now has joined you full time in the business?
Yes, he has. Yes, so he's kept very, very busy.
Awesome. Is there any plans to list your company in the stock market?
No, that would be a nice idea, but no. Look, we're still we're still really, really hands-on as a team. We're looking at growing into different territories, but we want to do it. We want to do it really, really well. We want to be able to spend some time in those territories. So no, not at this point.
Awesome. Finally, Jackie, what is your advice for entrepreneurs who would want to do something like you and would want to follow in your footsteps?
Oh gosh, my advice. I think surround yourself with a great team when you can. I know that it's always a hard slog when you first start, but if you've got that, I think if you've got that passion and you believe in what you're doing, then I think it's it is possible. So yes, make sure you do something that you love.
Awesome. Alrighty, that's all the time we have for today. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us from Auckland, New Zealand. Finally, anything you'd like to say? Parting words?
Oh, look, no, just thank you for having me. It was actually really, it was fun talking about the journey. You don't actually get to talk about it from the start to where you are now very often. So yeah, it's been a long time, but I've really enjoyed the journey. So yeah, thank you for letting me talk about it.